to A Well-Designed Business. My name is Luann Nigara, and I'm so glad you found this podcast. Together with my husband Vince and our partner Bill, we have grown our company Window Works from the ground up. So I know and I understand the challenges you face in running your interior design business. I also know that your talent alone isn't enough to ensure your success. So on this podcast, we talk about strategies and practical steps to help you grow your business. But make no mistake about it, we have our share of fun here too, mixed in with those aha moments that I love so much. This isn't fluff. Nobody has time for that. Whether you are a new interior designer or a seasoned designer, I am here to help you create and to manage the kind of interior design firm that you dream of. It's straight talk and it's action. Are you ready? Let's get started. Hi, welcome to A Well-Designed Business. Today's guest has interviewed over 100 homeowners after they hired an interior designer, and he has asked every single one of them the same two questions. Why did you choose this person? And what would life look like if you had it? So I want to tell you, stick around, because what he hears back is not what you'd guess, and it's going to make you look at your marketing differently. And my guest today is Jude Charles. Jude is the author of Dramatic Demonstration. This book is a roadmap that teaches you how to dig deep to find compelling stories no one else knows, and then leverage those stories to grow your business. Jude's mission is to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless, unwavering courage. This is Jude's fifth appearance on my podcast. He is a story-driven filmmaker and a brand strategist. And 3 years ago, he decided to go all in on the interior design and building industry. Since then, he has produced more than 20 docuseries for designers, architects, and builders. And along the way, he's developed a very specific process for uncovering the real reason a homeowner chooses one professional over another. This conversation is going to give you a couple of questions to sit with that might be a little more uncomfortable than you expect, but in the best way. Now, before I get into the conversation with Jude, I want you to go right now and mark your calendar for October 17th, 2026 at High Point Market. I want you to join me at Design Masters, where My Doma Studio, Sunbrella, and Design Assist are all combining and throwing a 10th birthday party for the podcast. Jude will be there along with Sarah Daniele, Kate O'Hara, Nicole Heimer, the Vincenz, my entire family, and so many other of the guests that you've come to know, love, and respect from the podcast over the years. For this very special birthday event, Jude is creating a brand new 20-minute segment of my docuseries, which we will be premiering and seeing that night for the very first time. I would love for you to be there with us, and the link to RSVP will be in the show notes. That's October 17th, 2026, 4 to 7 p.m. at Design Masters. All right, let's talk to Jude. Well, Mr. Charles, thank you so much for coming back on A Well-Designed Business today.
Thank you for having me. It has been a very long time since I've been back. I've been on the podcast quite a few times, but while since we've sat down and had a conversation on the podcast.
I know. Well, we talk in real life all the time, so it feels like, oh yeah, wait a minute, let's do this for everybody else.
Yeah.
So I looked it up. You've been on the podcast 5 times. I think this is your 5th appearance. And the last one was when you interviewed me for the 1000th episode.
Yes,
so I haven't turned the tables on you in quite a while. So
yes.
Yeah. And it's interesting because we do talk all the time. We're at a lot of the same events, and whatever, and we Voxering and all the things. But one of the reasons, and you probably have your own reasons, but one of the reasons that I really wanted to do this officially on the show is because over the last several years, you have been knee-deep behind the scenes in interior design businesses and builder businesses, Brad Levitt's to name one. Mm-hmm. And I know what that's like to be behind the curtain in someone's business. It's and for an extended period of time. So we can be with somebody at a Power Talk Friday. You've done multiple Power Talk Fridays, Luann Lives, all the things. And you have those moments where you're talking with somebody or even grabbing a moment at Vegas or High Point Market, right? But when you spend multiple days and that business owner has a problem in their face, I think it exposes a different level of vulnerability. And I wanted to understand, like, having that experience, you'll tell us how many times at this point, probably 20 or 30 times. What are you learning
Yeah.
about interior designers as business owners, as the people, the buck stops with them, their growth journey, their ahas, all of that? So
Hmm.
tell me about that, Jude.
Yeah. It has been 3 years as we're recording this that I decided to go all in on the interior design market. So working with architects, builders, and designers. And, it was because of you that I decided to go all in on the design industry. It was a Instagram live that you did about a podcast that I was on, Rick Campos's podcast, and you loved it so much that you did a 25-minute Instagram live. And
You know
that
how much I got to love something to get me to turn my camera on and talk on Instagram.
right, right. And then I can't really remember the sequence of events of why it clicked, but something clicked in my mind. I need to go all in on this design industry. And
Mm,
so it has been 3 years all in, probably about 5 or 6, because as you mentioned, I'm an instructor in Luan University, sorry. And now BFC with Boardroom for Creatives. I've been to all the markets, and especially High Point Market. I'm there every year, every season, every year. And yeah, I have seen quite a lot behind the scenes of these interior design businesses. I have lost count, but I think I'm up to 21 or 22 interior design focused docuseries,
wow.
where I am helping interior designers craft stories about who they are, the kind of clients they like to work with, their team, and why someone should choose to work with them. Because that's the number
Hmm.
one question on your client's mind or on your partner's mind. Why should I choose to work with you versus any and every other option?
Right.
One of the things, though, that is incredibly fascinating about the work that I do with these interior designers, there's a part in the docuseries where I will interview somewhere between 5 to 7 homeowners. These are clients of my client, right?
Hmm.
That decided to hire the interior designer. And there are two questions that I always ask every homeowner. One of them is, why did you choose this designer? Right? Because they might have looked at 3 or 4 other designers before they chose that one. And the other is, what would life look like if you didn't work with this designer?
That's a good question.
Right? And so if I stick with question number one, though, why did you choose this designer? There's actually a really funny story, and you got to see this docu-series where one of the homeowners, he has a home near the water, and he interviewed 3 interior designers. And Lauren Valerio, which is a client, a friend of the show as well, he said Lauren was the only one that looked at this. She looked at, I think it was the blueprints of the house, and she was the only one that realized we didn't have a powder room on the floor where we entertain most of our guests.
That seems
Right,
like a big gap for that architect.
right. And
Let's
so
build a 12,000 square foot home and everybody has to run out to our private bathroom.
exactly, exactly. And so he was like, that's when I knew I had the right person, because she just looked at the
Mm,
plans
and
and
picked
could
it right
easily
out.
and picked it right out. Now, what he didn't say is that the big misconception that I think a lot of designers have is that he didn't say he chose her because of her beautiful portfolio pictures.
Right.
Now, she has them,
Yep.
and I'm sure he scanned them. He went to her website, looked at them, but that's not why he chose her. I'm very specific in asking those 2 questions. Why did you choose them? What would life look like? Because what I know from even being outside of the design world, people don't choose you based off of just your portfolio, right? Like,
Nope.
even for me running a video production company, my clients aren't choosing me because I make great videos. Like, that's not what it is. That's not what it's about. They're choosing you because of whether it is your perspective, right? How you see things, how you see the world, the lived experiences that you've had, whether it's your personality. Are they going to enjoy actually working with you for the next year, 2 years, sometimes even 3 years, depending on the scope of the project?
Right.
Um, and how much do you understand design that you can walk them through it, right?
Right.
That you could hold their hand through it. It's not just about the portfolio picture. The portfolio picture is one of those things that it's kind of like a business card. Like you
It's
should have it.
validation. It's
It's
validation.
validation.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's validation. And I think that is one of the biggest misconceptions for all interior designers is thinking that the portfolio is the end all be all, that
Right.
this person is going to see my work and then the work speaks for itself.
That's right.
That is not the case. And so over and over, like it's probably, so if I had to tally it up, if I'm interviewing 5 homeowners, I've probably done 20 or so design projects like this. I've interviewed over 100 homeowners. Not one. Not one. And
one.
Not
Not
one.
one. And you see,
Not one has said
maybe
that.
everybody in the audience is surprised. Guess who's not surprised? My hand. My hand's up. I'm not at all surprised.
Yep.
Right? It's like I say in the intro, your talent alone is not enough to create your success. You can have the most amazing eye, talent, coordination, scale, proportion. You can't deliver it on time, on budget. You can't communicate your vision to somebody. You can't work with your trades. You can't get that person to go from a picture to a $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 check. God help us, 11, 10, $12 million check. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
I'll give you another example. Brad Levitt, he every now and then he'll take on what's called a rescue project. That means that another builder had the project, but for one reason or another, they messed it up, right? Brad had a client who was building a 26,000 square foot home. So very large property, right? Very large property. And within the first year of another builder taking on this project and actually, putting up the framing, the homeowner realized this doesn't look right. And so he stopped all construction, started analyzing how things were being done, and realized that the builder just didn't know what he was doing. Like he wasn't building it right.
Eeks.
And for this homeowner, in his mind, he has 2 young boys, and he is from Phoenix, Arizona, born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona. He already had in his mind where he was going to raise his boys before they were even born. He knew what
This is the client now.
This is the client, the homeowner.
Yep.
He knew what neighborhood. He knew, why he wanted that neighborhood. And now he's looking at this property that he's just spent the last year on with this builder and realizing this builder has just been taking his money but doesn't know what he's doing.
Whoa.
Someone else recommends, hey, go talk to Brad in AFT Construction. This homeowner, he's just like, I don't know if I even want to do this. He's like, I've got all the money in the world. I can live wherever I want to live. Yeah. Do I want to go through this anymore for the next 2-3 years? Right? He goes to meet with Brad on one of Brad's job sites. It's actually another big project, just like the one that is like this homeowner's home. And he's like, all right, I see what you're doing, but show me why this is working the way it's working, right? And one of Brad's superintendents was able to pull out an iPad and say, hey, this is how we have it mapped out. We know to make these check marks when we're looking at things. We know when this vendor's coming in. And the homeowner was like, okay, they know what they're doing. This is how you run an operation.
You have a process.
Right? But it wasn't because Brad had these great pictures and videos, which we all know Brad does a lot of content.
Amazing.
Right? But it wasn't just about that, because that other builder had great pictures too. And that other builder had been building homes too. It's just something went wrong on this one. And luckily, one of the reasons I know this story is because it's a part of the docuseries, but it took 6 years for this house to be completed. Whoa. When Brad took it over, it took a year just to try to fix everything that had gone wrong.
Oh, wow.
And it took 6 years, but now he's happy. He's living in the home. But it was because of who Brad was and how he led his firm that said, okay, even though I've been burned before, I trust you, right?
Yes. And
that's one of the things that I think we as entrepreneurs, creative entrepreneurs, take for granted is how important trust is in the beginning. And that now more than ever, these homeowners are sophisticated, right? They're sophisticated, but they're also cautious because they have been burned.
Yeah.
But if you can show them who you are, beyond just that you're an interior designer, if you can show them how you operate, how you think, why you think the way that you think, what are your core values, which I speak a lot about core values. If you can share that, that's what makes the difference. That's what builds trust. And that's a lot of what I'm seeing behind the scenes is these homeowners are saying, yes, we've been burned before, but we chose this builder or we chose this interior designer because we got to see the real them and not just the pretty pictures.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about that. It was so much more than that.
Yeah. Well, and also just, I know that you agree with me, to be clear, neither one of us are saying stop creating portfolios. We're,
Agreed.
but
Right.
it's just, it's the last step. It's the, oh, and by the way, like I've said 1,000 times on the show, I expect you, if you're a designer, to do a pretty room. Period. That is
Right.
the baseline entry point. You should know your craft. And you know what? Listen, we have different skill sets in every field. There's different skill sets of filmmakers like yourself, different skill sets for podcasters, different skill sets for interior designers. But wherever you serve that market, whatever level income you serve in that market, at baseline, you need to be able to create a pretty room, whether it's a room with a $15,000 budget or a room with a, 50,000 or $300,000 budget. You should be able to do it better than the garden variety human, but that's not the stop. That's the
Right.
thing. It's not the stop. This is people's hard earned money. It's the most expensive investment they'll typically make in their lifetime, even if some of the, wealthy few at the very top make it multiple times in their lifetime. Yay them, and yay you if you can get the project every time, right? But
Right.
it's still, I don't care how wealthy you are, it's still your money. And, even, I was going to say, and you worked for it. And even the people who were handed it generationally, right? It's
Right.
still their money. You know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody's just like, whatever, it doesn't matter. And so there has to be another criteria. And the deeper, more meaningful criteria are it starts with who are you? How do you
Right.
approach your work? Right?
Right.
What do you
Right.
believe about your work? What do you believe about the way you serve a client? What do you believe about the way you interact? You know what they say too? You know, there's that's saying, like, you can get a person could be a stranger to you and you can get a whole insight to them in 5 minutes, the way they treat like a wait staff person,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
it's like that same thing. It's like a consumer wants to know that you can do a beautiful room, and so give them the proof, but they want to know how you show up. How
Yeah.
are you going to talk to me? How are you going to talk to the trades? What is your process? Is it just like, I get on the job and I just look around and I just find all the fires, or I pull out my iPad and I have my checklists of what I'm doing every day and making sure all the other guys, Brad's got a company of 30 plus people. Everybody's at the same iPad. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Right.
checking the same things, right?
Yep. And like I mentioned too, the client's sophisticated, they've made money. That usually means they've ran businesses before. So when they see the systems, when they see that this isn't all smoke and mirrors, they can
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. They're not looking to micromanage it. Not all of them, at least. Some of them probably will, but not all of them, right? They're not looking to micromanage it. They're looking to make sure, like, hey, can I take my hands off of this and know that you've got it under control? Right.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so that's why it's important, as you have talked about endlessly, to have a process. But the other part too, I think, is having a personality. What is it
Yes.
that you stand for? And knowing that clearly. When I first decided to go into all in on this interior design industry, it was July 2023. So from July 2023 to November 2023, I had reached out to over 100 interior designers, and decided that because I was going to pitch them, because I was going all in on this industry, I would pitch them, hey, let's do a documentary together. You've seen what I've done with Luann. I could do the same for you. Well, not one of those interior designers said yes. Not one. In that 6 months, about 6 months that I reached out to those 100, not
That's
one.
a tough 6 months.
And
I remember
it was
that. I remember
it's a
that.
very tough 6 months. But then I got to Luann Live, and it was tough, but it was harder to see many of the faces that told me no.
Yeah.
I'm walking the halls on the first day, and I'm seeing faces, and I'm like, that face looks familiar. And then I look at the name and I realize, oh, this is a person I probably had a Zoom call with 2 weeks ago or 2 months
Yeah.
ago. And for a while, I thought to myself, while I was there, because I was there to speak at Luann Live, I thought to myself, how can I go up there and speak when all these people have already told me no? Like, this isn't the people I'm called to. Like, they don't want to work with me. It's a wave of rejection that I felt. And so I almost didn't speak, but I decided to speak. And I remember I had on an Apple Watch, I believe, that day. And I wrote on the band, I'm showing up for the one. Now, I didn't realize who that one would be, but I did this exercise at Luann Live where it was with a Jenga set. And I was talking about burnout. I had burnt out in my career in 2020 where It was so bad that I woke up one morning and I couldn't move my body, right? And I was talking about like how in Jenga there are 52 pieces, and if you take away 12 of those pieces, the structure still holds. You don't need everything that you think you need.
Okay.
On the Jenga pieces are words written as well. It might say start telling your story or stop working on XYZ, right? And I throw the pieces out. The 12 pieces that I take away, I throw them out. Well, there's one piece
Into
I
the
always
audience.
into the
Throw them out.
audience. Yes,
Yes,
yes, yes,
yeah.
yes.
I
Sorry,
remember.
into the audience, right? And there are about 200 people, 200 plus people at Luann Live. But I remember the last piece. There's always a piece I leave last. It's called courage. My purpose is to lead and empower entrepreneurs to have relentless courage. So I always leave that last piece for the person that needs it most. And to my left of the room while I was speaking, there was a interior designer crying uncontrollably the whole time that I started doing this exercise. And I, instead of throwing the piece to her at the end, when everyone, clapped and I'm walking away, I went to hand her the piece so I didn't attract attention to her. And that interior designer came up to me at the end. She composed herself. She stopped crying. She came up to me. She was like, I don't know how you know I needed this. I needed this so much right now. There's so much going on in my life, things going on at home, things going on in the business that I needed this courage piece. I'm going to hold on to it. Well, that was November 2023. I ended up seeing that designer again in person November 2025. And she still had the piece. But what that designer taught me in this season where I wasn't able to close any deals in an industry that I was very excited to be in, she taught me that what I have is unique and it's not for everyone.
Right.
While I was trying to pitch, hey, let's do this documentary because I just thought it was a no-brainer. You would want video and you would want to have this for your business. What I actually bring, and we've talked about this before, what I bring is this deep level of, some call it therapy, but I help entrepreneurs look at who they are in a different way. I create this mirror for them that allows them to break through and grow to their next level. But that's not for everyone. That's not what every interior designer needs. And I wasn't leading with that. And so when I say like, for interior designers, leading with your personality and that clients or homeowners are choosing you based off personality, it's off the things that makes you unique, that no one else can really say they do it the way that you do it. Right. They don't believe in the things that you believe. I happen to go really deep with my clients. Not every filmmaker is going to do that or even care to do that.
Right. They're just following you with a video.
They're just following you with a video,
documenting
right?
it like a uninterested outside party.
Exactly. What I do is so much different than that, to the point that I actually don't even start with us filming. We start with a road mapping session, which is a very deep 3 to 8 hours long of me asking you questions that sometimes has nothing to do with interior design.
Right.
But I've understood, especially with that interior designer who helped me understand that, who helped me see that, who was a mirror for me. She helped me see like, yeah, you're not called for everybody, but you're called for that one person. Because I could have easily chosen not to speak that day.
Well, you say that. You forgot about me.
Absolutely.
You could have easily
right?
chosen to try and tell me you weren't going to speak that day.
Absolutely. And that was one of the reasons I spoke. I knew there was no way I was going to be able to lie my way out of it. But she taught me like, who you are, what you bring is unique. Own that. Stand in that power and know that the person that needs that is going to want to work with you. And that's why, it's been 3 years, but it's also been 20 plus design focused and interior design focused docuseries. And it's, many of them will tell you like some of it, I know for sure Jen Davidson has been on this podcast and she actually said it here on your podcast. The leading reason why she did a docuseries was not to have the docuseries. It was the work that came through having a docuseries.
Oh, isn't that interesting? That's right. I remember that.
And so I think for interior designers, like the lesson to learn and all of that is what you bring, who you are, more importantly, is unique. And there are clients out there, homeowners out there who need what you have and only you have it. Yeah. You are unique. You are as unique as a fingerprint. And that's what they're looking for.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting because having been through your road mapping process, it's and I'm not like a young person here that hasn't, been pressed. Who are you? Why do I care about you? Blah, blah, blah. Right. Like I've been through it, um, and I've also, it's actively how I was raised, to actively question and look around and can I be better? Is there something, blah, blah, blah. And it still was just like, oh, like the things that you uncover. And so my question is, I know you were not around from the beginning of the podcast, but you've probably heard the Fred Burns only enough
Yes.
times to
Yeah.
know what it is, right? So
Yeah.
back in year one, and for probably at least the first 3 to 4 years, Fred would be a recurring guest. Now he's a marketer, right? He's a marketer.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He doesn't come from it like deep introspective, but he is good at asking you questions. There's difference, right? It's like, there's a big difference. He's getting
Right.
to the soundbite, right?
Yeah.
But it's effective and it's helpful, and all the things. But if I had a nickel for every designer that said to me, I don't know what my Fred Burns only is.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's happening at a live event. I'm not pulling out the list of questions, and the only thing I can ever say on the fly is it's not you're not looking for the craziest, wild, the only designer of all time to ever have this thing. You're not even looking, if you're an interior designer on 84th and 2nd, and there's another designer at 85th and 2nd, you could have a similar only, but the
Right.
way you
Right.
process that only, the way you deliver that only, the way you show up with that only is always going to come back to what you said, the unique fingerprint. And so, I didn't prepare you for this question, but can you think of some of the onlys or just unique properties and unique point of views that you can recall your clients uncovering in the process for the express purpose of letting somebody listen and go, oh, that doesn't seem like the most unusual thing ever, but it isn't the most unusual thing ever, right? It's just usually
Right.
a surprise about ourselves.
Yeah. When someone is looking to find out more about who they are, because that is a challenge that most people go through, right? Is who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know how to answer that question. Who am I? Usually I start with three basic questions. One being, who are you when challenges show up? So if you are put to the pressure and there's something that you need to solve, a problem you need to solve, how do you solve it? And
Mm.
why do you solve it that way? Um, who are you at your best? Right? Who are you at your best when you're having fun? Why are you having fun doing it that way? Um, and then if we had to put someone in a room with you and the cameras were on, what would they see? Who is it that they would see?
Mm.
Right? What are the things that you are interested in? The hobbies that you're interested in? Why are you interested in those hobbies? Right? Like I've talked to some interior designers who are interested in art, right? And actually do painting. Well, why is that? What is it about painting that gets you excited that you want to do that? Some other things that are unique that I've heard over time is I think of Ellie Redders. Ellie Redders was actually a speech pathologist, I think it was, before she ever became an interior designer.
Mm-hmm.
And she kind of fell into interior design, and she's been in interior design now 17 years. But the way that she sees the world is unique in the sense that she has created this company, team of 10, but she has taken over almost every part of the process of interior design, meaning window treatment, and she has this virtual reality room and all these different things that she has because she wants to make sure that the client never has to deal with too many decisions, right? She wants to take over many of the decisions that the client is having to make so that all they have to do really is show up.
Mm-hmm.
Now, why though? That's a question I usually ask is why.
Right,
why are
right.
you okay? Why that? Why does that matter to you? Why
Yeah.
is it that you care so much that because I think at a certain point, yes, it might look like a good business decision, but also it's a lot to take on.
It is.
And so I go really deep in asking that question, like why? What is it that you experienced in your life that made you feel like I need to take this over? If you ask me like why is it that I go really deep with my clients and the way that I do it. Growing up, I always used to watch these detective shows with my dad, and very old shows that people probably wouldn't even remember, like NYPD Blue or Nash Bridges, right? And one of the cool things to me was always how they worked backwards to try to solve the crime.
Mm.
And many of the work that I do now is working backwards, looking at all these pieces of evidence. And that's what excites me, because it was this thing that I grew up with as a child.
Interesting.
Now, that's one layer. I'm telling you the why on one layer. But if I go really deeper than that, I think most of the work that I'm doing and how I do it is I'm helping my clients find their voice and having the courage to find their voice, because I am the youngest of 10. And as being the youngest of 10, I didn't always have a voice in my family. Even when I started the business, it is now, I've been in business 20 years now, but I started the business at 17 years old, which was not common. And I decided not to go to college. Again, not common. And my parents or my family didn't take it seriously. So I had to have the courage to keep going and keep continuing on. And so that's what drives me with working with my clients is like, it's yes, we're going to create a story. It's going to look amazing. As we've said with interior design, that's a given.
Yeah.
But what gets us to that point is the deeper work. And to me, that's what lights me up, is seeing that transformation happen in that person, that now they get to show up differently in their work. That's what makes it meaningful to me. But that makes it meaningful to me because of what I also have gone through in my career.
Right.
And I want to help unlock that for other people. Now, that's not all of that you heard is not going to matter to everybody, right? But I know at this point in my career, 20 years in, that my clients are not hiring me for video. They are hiring me to lead them through this process. I don't say it in marketing or anything like that, but I know I'm running a leadership development company that happens to have video as a deliverable.
I agree.
Right. And so it's when we talk about like, okay, what makes you unique? It's going deep. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. But it takes time asking yourself these questions. And one of the most important questions that bothers my clients all the time is why? Because I'm never going to let you give me that surface level answer. Let's go deeper with it. Right.
Yes,
exactly. Right.
I can remember a couple of times during road mapping, when you get the second or third why, and you're like, all right, okay. All right, give me a minute. Let me really try and tap into the why. Because you're right. You can just give answers. Not that you're hiding or you're falsifying, but you really often haven't taken the time to really get to the why, right? And I think it's interesting to note, of course, having been through the process, I know darn well, but to just note, none of the questions you ask are, why do you like interior design? Like, why do you like that sofa? How did you decide that you should build that built-in like that? It's like, that is not the aha. And I feel like when I've met the designers that you've done the docuseries for, the word you used is transformation. And it's an exceptional word for this, because I have always said, whether I'm doing a webinar for Studio Designer or a live event for IDS or whatever it is, I've often said this line. If people are like, well, I don't know how to charge more. I don't think my clients will pay more. And I've said to them, if you really cannot raise your prices, you believe it, the story between your ears. I know I've watched multiple times it happen. And when I say multiple, I mean multiple dozens of times. Any designer who finally sits down, and window treatment expert for that matter, finally sits down and truly documents what they do for a client, at the end of that process is the last time you underprice your work, because you're just like, whoa, like all of this lives in my head for free real estate, and I'm just grinding it out and delivering all of this amazing stuff and keeping track of all of these details. And then it's like evangelism. It's like, now I know, and I will never give it up for free again, right? But I feel like it's a similar transformation in the designers that I have spoken to that have been through the docuseries process with you, because you are digging at them at why you. Why you for anything? Why you in this kitchen table with your family? Why you on this job site with these people? Why you with hiring this employee and not that employee? And why you with picking kitchen design versus whole home design? And when somebody takes the time to really answer your questions, reflect on it honestly, there is this transformation. There is this, oh, right. This is why I do this. It's not just I'm a designer and now no one will ever look at you and go, oh, you pick pretty furniture and pillows. Well, have a seat, pal. Because that's really not what's happening here.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Lou, as you're saying all of that, one of the people that I remember working with, Lauren Valerio, who I've mentioned before, when we were doing her interview, this actually didn't come up in road mapping. It came up later on because that kind of happens too, because I'm asking all these deep questions.
It's
an
coming.
onion. Right. The answers may not, especially the why question, that may not happen in road mapping where we get to the why.
Right.
But it does happen over time. And I can't remember the question that I asked Lauren, but I remember her response, which we had unraveled. Lauren has been running her business, I think, 13 years now, but she's been in design world for 20 years. First started at a kitchen and bath showroom selling supplies, and then started her design firm. She talked about how she has at the time that she started all of this, she had 2 young kids, and she travels back and forth to work, hour and a half each way. So about 3 hours each day.
Crazy.
Very crazy. And she had missed a lot of the early things in the child's life. So taking them to the doctor or other appointments and activities that they have. And she felt a lot of guilt towards that. And she was like, people had told her when she first became a mom, like, it goes by really quick. You don't realize how fast it goes by. And for her in her design firm now today, it's about helping other young people, young families realize like how fast the time goes. And more importantly, you don't realize how much time you lose when things aren't working properly.
Yes.
So if you're sitting in the kitchen and you're trying to spend time with your kid, but then you're wanting to go get something out of the kitchen, but it's not in the right place. Now you're all thrown off by how like this doesn't function well, but you've lost time because now you're thinking so much about something that doesn't work right versus the time to spend with your kids. And something as simple as that, very, very simple, very like, we've heard designers say that before. We care about function and things need to function well in the home. But there's a deeper emotion behind that functionality for her, where she's lived it. It's a lived experience of hers. It doesn't mean that she wasn't a great mother to her kids. It was just something that she has lived with, that she also knows, like, if I can help relieve that for someone else, then I've done good in the world because I know what that feels like, right? I think that many designers, many creative people take for granted these small things that make them unique, but that also makes them care more about the work that they're doing and have the passion behind the work that they're doing. I heard an interview with the CEO of Spotify, where when he first started Spotify, Apple Music was already out and there were other music competitors. And someone asked him, well, why are you taking on this challenge? Like you're fighting one of the biggest companies, Apple, to do music and have this audio platform. Why are you doing that? And he said, I could give you 1,000 reasons as to why we're doing it, but the simplest reason is we're going to care more. And that's it. We're going to care more because Apple is such a big company that this is only a very small slice of what they're doing. This is our life. This is what we live and breathe for, right? Yeah. The reason that I teach at Luann University, the reason that I'm a part of Boardroom for Creative, both in storytelling, it's because it's not just about video for me. It's about the deeper work that happens that helps unlock the transformation for interior designers, for architects, for builders. Because I don't rest on just you giving me the surface level answer. Because that surface level answer is not going to do anything for you. No. But to help get you to that next level, the business that you're trying to grow, it requires you to go deep. The best business development is personal development. It is not the work. It's not the final video that you're seeing. It's all the things that happened behind the scenes that got us to that final video, that allowed that interior designer to speak the way that they speak, because I'm challenging them to go deeper. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think we take for granted all these things that really helps homeowners connect on a deeper level with who we are. Not just about the competence, not just that you can design, but why do you design? Why are you running this company? Why do you have a team? Why do you care about your team and in the way that you care about them? Like all of these things matter towards the homeowner and who they hire to help design or build their home.
Yeah. I mean, and, also, why do you not have a team, right? We've got many designers that have legit, powerful reasons for why they don't want to have a team. I'm thinking of Rachel Moriarty, for example, and others, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and I think that example is the kind of example that I was sort of looking for is, to your point, every designer ever is going to essentially, theoretically, competently optimize your kitchen to use it. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the goal, of course, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But there is something to be said for connecting that why. It's like, I'm traveling an hour and a half each day. And if when I get home at the end of the night, I'm sitting here with my kids and they're doing homework and I'm maybe doing meal prep, or maybe she gets home so late, she's actually doing the meal prep for tomorrow night's night because tonight's dinner might already have been done, right?
Right,
But
right.
like when you picture somebody like Lauren, who is just the kindest, sweetest person ever, adores her family, and it's such a tiny moment, but when you describe it, you can picture her like one kid's in the middle of this full-blown story and she's like, I gotta go get a thing that's around the corner and don't stop talking, I'm still listening. It's such a tiny slice of life, but for the mother out there that thinks she's just hiring an interior designer to make a pretty kitchen because I saw it on Instagram. Now, Lauren's conversation about how important a kitchen is versus another conversation with another designer about whether we use marble countertops or not. I mean, one is hitting between the eyes and the other is perfunctory, like I could design a kitchen.
Exactly.
And so, and everybody has that little nudge. That's what you uncover. And, I also want to go back to Jen's observation with you that she said, I don't really do this to get the video. I did this as I don't know if she used the word leadership exercise, but I know that was her becoming the CEO. That was like the title of her podcast was something about that. I don't remember it exactly, but that was her transformation. What I don't know that I knew was if that was the motivation for doing the video. And what's so interesting is when you talk about that, a real deliverable of your work with us is leadership development. And it's like, we could all go out and hire somebody to just do this exercise. And when it's done, oh, bye. But when we do it with you and we're done, we get a living, breathing, testament to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so incredible the way you capture the moments.
I want to take you through the full journey of the Jen Davidson one. So when I met Jen Davidson, it was at Design Biz Retreat, which is Rick Campos's event. And we had breakfast, I think, the day after the event. And one of the things I did say to her is that in having conversation with her just about some of the challenges she was having in her business, I was like, you're running a design firm, but you're not being the leader of that design firm. Right. And it was that sparked something in her that was like, okay. Right. And I think the specific thing that I said to her is you need to be the boss. And boss was an acronym that I think was believe it, own it, say it, and show it. I had never used it before. It was just something that had came up in our conversation based on what I heard her saying. We did the docuseries. I remember one of the things that she said, and I believe she said it on this podcast too, was that watching that docuseries, the reason she went into doing the docuseries was to prove it to the 4-year-old girl who didn't believe that any of this would be possible. But the other thing too that happens with many of the clients, not just Jen Davidson, is that this video is a mirror now for them to see not only who they are and how they operate, but what clients have to say. The one thing that the audience may not realize is that when I do these homeowner interviews, the designers are not in the room.
No,
So they
we're not
actually
there.
so they actually don't get to see or hear what the client is saying until you watch this docuseries. I do leave that at the end as a surprise. And so, when you see other people talking about you, and you do realize they're not just saying, oh yeah, she designed a pretty room for me, but they're talking about these other things, that the experience of what it was like to work with you and who you are, it changes you to watch that, because the hardest person to see is yourself. That is why we use mirrors. You can see everybody else, but you can't see yourself. And so it creates this new level of confidence that, especially for someone like Jen Davidson, Lauren has done the same thing, where they did the first one and then they came back and was like, wait, I need more of this. And so we end up doing a second one, right? And even for someone like Brad Levitt, which I'll come back to that story, because that's a really unique story of how I've continued to work with Brad. But even someone like Brad Levitt continues to come back, because this work that we're doing changes you in its transformation, but it also gives you more confidence in your business. So
it does.
Even if you may not go into it thinking, oh, I need this leadership development work, which again, I don't lead with that, because that's not, when someone comes to me, they're not thinking about that. Right. But I understand that's the work that I really do.
Right.
What it does is it gives you confidence, where someone like Jen Davidson ended up creating this package, this box that she sends to architects and builders, because that's someone she wants to connect with more. In the box is coffee beans, a coffee cup. I even think it says something like coffee on me. And then there's a card in there that has the QR code to her docuseries. So now it's the first introduction. So even though she may go into it thinking, okay, I really need to do this for me to prove it and have the confidence, that confidence turns into this other thing that allows her to confidently show up in a different way than other designers are not showing up.
Yeah.
Same thing for Lauren Valerio. Lauren also wants to connect with brands in a different way. It's not just, I asked her point blank, I was like, is this to get more clients, or is this because of this dream that you once had of working with plumbing brands? Yeah. She was like, this is to work with plumbing brands. I want them to know who I am and have a better introduction into who I am. Well, that's a very different door that you open when you're sending this to a new person that, let's just say, hypothetically works at Kohler. Right. And they don't know who you are. They have no reason to care about, oh, here's another interior designer that says they want to work with us. Right. But now they get an introduction into who you are and what you're about. And, oh, we didn't even know she existed, but now we have this and we see this. We need to learn more about her, right? So these people, yes, they go into it with the idea of, hey, I'm going to get a video and I might grow my business. I understand my real purpose in life and I frame it around leadership development, but it still comes out on the other end where there's this business development that happens.
Yeah.
But that's why I said is there. The deliverable is there. And that's why I said the best business development is personal development. Yeah. Until you work on yourself, until you work on even some of the insecurities you may have or the things that are holding you back, you won't be able to grow to that next level. Right. And that's for someone who's running their design firm by themselves, all the way up to someone like a Brad Levitt team of 30, where Brad has said before, he was like, as busy as he is, Brad, the only time he ever turned off his phone was when we were filming together, doing his interviews, because it was that important to him to have this time to really go deep. And because of that, he uses the docuseries to connect with bigger clients. Now, Brad's already been doing multi-million-dollar homes. If you've been paying attention to the podcast, he's been on quite a few times talking about that. But for him, he wanted to connect with higher end clients who are building these big homes like the 26,000 square foot home. But how do you get someone to trust you? How do you get them to connect beyond just, we can build your home? You see Brad with his 6 kids. You see how he pours into his team, right? All these things that you may look at it like, oh, here's this person just putting a camera on them. No, it's so much more than that. I am trying to show you the human being, because we do business with people.
Yeah.
right? And
Brad's docuseries is almost like a Rocky. You know what I mean? You're just like you're watching, you're like, oh my God, this guy, like I know him how many years? I've interviewed him half a dozen times, had him on panels, and I'm just like, oh my God, I wish I had a house I needed to build. You know what I mean? Like it is what you said. It's getting Brad is one of those people that is just professional, kind, a gentleman, all the things, and from the first time Jenny Slingerland introduced me to him, and we had the one conversation, was like, oh no, we got to do this again. And then it was like, you know what, you're going to speak at Luann Live and let's do panels together. But to your point, you watch the docu-series and you're just like, oh, whoa, like this is a rare human being. This is a man of principles. This is a man with values. This is a man that brings it all to his kids, to his team. You watch his team talk about him and you're like, oh my God, like it's amazing. And then the funny things, right? All hopping on a plane, charters, all going, playing darts or whitewater rafting, all the things they do.
Right. And it's things
amazing.
that you wouldn't normally see because a lot of these stories are hidden in our business. Because we take them for granted. We just think, oh, the client doesn't always need to see that.
No.
And even the story I told at the beginning of this with the rescue project that Brad did, we got to film that. And we got to interview the client, which many homeowners at that level are private. But he was willing to do this interview because, well, obviously, one, Brad was able to save his project. But number two, it's like, no, this is a person, this is a human being that helped me. How could I say no about helping them? Right. It was a human to human interaction. Yeah. And I think there are a lot of these hidden stories that we take for granted, the hidden, unique things about who we are that we take for granted. But when you share it, when you expose yourself, that is what opens the door to new opportunities and being able to grow your business. Even if you are a one-person design firm, like being able to continue to attract the right people to your business is important. I have I call it my right client profile. I have 30, I think it's 36 things that are on the list of who makes the right client. Oh. And the designer, architect, builder have to match with at the very least 80% of that list, which I think is 32 things. And the reason I do
that's
that,
a steep list that we all have to climb over. It's a good thing I didn't know that then.
Well, the reason I do that is because, I want to make sure to have fun, and I understand my purpose and I understand who I'm called to.
Oh no,
work with, right?
I get the reason behind it.
But I think even with how I share vulnerably some of the things that I've gone through, it is to connect the human to the human. It's so much more than just about the deliverable. And that deliverable is going to be there. Yeah. You're going to use this and be able to make more money and grow your business or connect with other partners and clients. But there's also the human level that allows people to see who you really are at a deeper level so that they can decide that not only is this the right person for me, this is the only person I want to work with. When I ask the question to the homeowner, can you imagine a life without working with a Lauren Valerio? Or can you imagine a life without working with Jen Davidson? It's because the way that they respond, usually, sometimes I've had homeowners who cry. I've had people who, their eyes bulge and they're like, no, I don't want to think about that.
Yeah, don't even make me.
Don't make me, right? But that communicates something too, because it's not about them designing the room. It's about who that person is. And I don't want to imagine a life without that person. And so again, all of the things that we're talking about is uncovering those stories and showing people who you really are, because when you expose yourself, you put yourself out there, that exposure creates expansion.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because I love Jen's tactic of, I can imagine the notice, have a cup of coffee and get to know me, right? Like you're too busy to do it in person, but here's a way you can do it, right? And it brought me back. There was this one time a couple of years ago, 2, 3, 4 years ago, whatever it was. I was doing a panel at High Point with a new brand that I had never worked with before. Another PR rep had set it up and invited me. They built the panel, here's your panel, here's your topic. Do you want to do it? And the particular PR rep and I love this PR rep, which is a big statement for this industry for me. I'm just going to tell you. But I do. And, so everybody else was new. And what was crazy was we get to the panel and we find out that one of the panelists couldn't be there. And I'm fine with it because less is better for me, right? Like most people will try and put a panel of 5 people and I'm like, everybody gets to say one word, yay, right? Because I want to go deep. You know what I mean? I want to get the real information, right? But immediately upon telling me that they have a panelist that something happened and they couldn't come, they tell me that one of the EVPs or SVPs or one of the C-suite people from the brand is going to be on the panel. And it was so funny because, I'm going to do my research on you. Like, I'm going to, if I don't know you, if I haven't interviewed you on the show, I'm going to, so I just have this point blank stare. Like and it wasn't, I don't want you. I was like, oh, shoot. Like, I don't know you. I don't know who you are, what you do. What questions am I going to throw your way? But the face must have been like, I don't want you on the panel, because what was funny was he immediately looks at me and he says, don't worry, I'm ready. And I'm like thinking to myself, it's me who's not ready. It's me, right? Like, I'm not ready, right? But he goes, don't worry. But I'm just looking at him. He goes, don't worry, I'm not ready. And then this was funny. He goes, because when I found out last night that I was going to have to do this, he goes, I clicked on that first video on your Instagram, which is the trailer for the docuseries. He said, and I honestly spent way too much time deep diving into you at this point. He goes, I might know more about you than anybody in the industry at this point, right? And it was like, and we laughed and it was fine. And he was so intelligent and good on the panel. And the company is a great company and all the things. But what was funny was, it was the trailer for the docuseries that he was like, oh, okay, this something's happening here. Who is this? I like this person. And then he went and watched the full hour and 20 minutes, you know what I mean? But then he goes, I was like he goes, I'm a little embarrassed to tell you how much time I spent looking into you. But I know for a fact that if the docuseries trailer wasn't pinned there, or if it wasn't prominent on the website, it would have been like, let me read a website. Okay, fine. All right. She's like going to ask questions, whatever. But it was that like, oh, I know who Luann is as a person now, because he didn't have, 3 months to go and listen to a dozen podcasts to see who I am. And that got him right to, oh, okay, I'm good. I respect this person. I know who she is. I'm prepared because she's Jersey. She's going to ask the questions. I can see that by everything and every way she shows up. So it was just interesting. And then me knowing that the questions that I asked him were different. I was like, okay, I don't know him, but given his title, I got to assume there's a couple of brain cells in there. And because he said he got to know me, I knew I could go hard and he would not be mistrustful of it. He'd be like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's, I don't know if that's a thing in my own head, but
on the first podcast we ever did together, because I go back and listen to all the podcasts I've been on. Yours I've listened to more than one. It was actually a really great podcast. And one of the first questions I remember you asking me was about storytelling and like, I do this storytelling in a way that you would imagine is really hard. And I think I ended up opening by telling the story that I always tell. It's the same story. Mrs. Donnelly, the teacher that gave me the business cards, right? And you said something that you just said again, which was, when you know someone's story, the conversation is different.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what happened with that SVP or executive who was just as unprepared as you were, but he decided to go do his homework and he lands on your Instagram page. And because that video was pinned, the trailer, he decides to do a deep dive and watch this, 2-hour-long trailer. And 2-hour-long docuseries. And another thing I learned from you through our conversations, I don't think it was on the podcast, but through our conversations, I'm going to spin this. I'm going to tell you the way you say it, but then I'm going to spin it. The way that you say it is if if one person's asking you a question or they have an objection, 3 other people have it.
Yes, whether I
Right?
know it or I've heard it or not. Yes.
Whether I know it or heard it or not, if
Yep.
that one person brings it up,
emails me and says, I'm not happy about this. I know there's 50 other of them like there, or I am happy about this. There's another 50 that are happy, right?
right. I think because you're not the only person in the design world who has their docuseries pinned, right? Most of the designers I work with, one of the things we work through in road mapping, we talk about the marketing part of it, the business development part. And I do recommend they pin it on the top. But the thing I take away from you telling that story is like, if he did that, there are 3 other people who did that, who have just heard of this Luann person and don't really know more about who she is. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll kind of just see what she's about on Instagram, and then see that and like, wait, I got to find out more now. Yeah. The conversations are different when someone knows your story. The relationship is different when someone knows your story. So if a client or a homeowner can get to meet you before they've ever met you, now the conversations you have are different. They're not looking at any and every other option.
They're not asking you about marble and
they're not
ceramic. They're asking you
exactly.
about, how do you really know how to tell me about the kitchen you designed for your kids so that it could be, right?
Right, exactly. And so, everything that we're talking about is that it's understanding your client, understanding who you're talking to, and how do they decide who the right person is to work with. They decide it through not your portfolio, not because you have the best website, but because they got to see who you really were.
Yeah.
And know that, okay, this is the right choice for us because of that.
Yeah, no, I love it. I mean, you're 100% right in, even at my level and what I do, it's like, if I have the choice of putting a panel together, I'm going to pick people that have been on the podcast. You don't have to be the most celebrated designer, but whatever that topic is, I'm going through my mental Rolodex, because it is a better conversation if I know you. You know what I mean? It just immediately just feels like 2 colleagues who are going to tell you the real stuff, as opposed to I'm spending 20 minutes dancing around. What do you really know? And my saying, it's like, I want to throw fastballs in a panel discussion.
Imagine because you said it too with this executive, because he now knew you and there was trust built, you knew you could go deeper. You knew you
That's
could
right. Like, I felt like we had an inside joke. He's like, you're an absolute lunatic. I'm like, good. We're good.
Right. That's what you want. I think many people are afraid to put themselves out there and to do this deep work because they're afraid of what other people will say and being judged.
But you know what? You're doing it anyway. See, that's the thing. Yeah. Like, that's what people need to understand. You are showing up as yourself every day in every situation, whether it's a networking event with builders and architects, whether it's a networking event for, a cancer society ball with potential clients, whether it's on the job site. So when you document it, you're not like, oh, now you know who I really am. I got news for you. You are who you are. And the docuseries is just allowing it to be packaged in a way that it's collated and it's structured in a story format that brings the viewer in. Like, every docuseries you've ever done, it's like you think you're going to watch a minute or two and you're just like, all right, okay, I guess, well, how long is this one? This one's 30 minutes. All right, I got to watch every minute because, it does. You really do. That's where your genius is. I don't know how you did it. You came with me for a year and filmed me. I don't know how many hours of film you have of events, live events, personal events, all the things. And I have said to people, when you gave me here's the proof. Here's this is the first draft, right? Like,
first look. I call it the first look.
First look, right? Let me know what you like. Well, let me know what you don't like or whatever. And I was just like, my brain did 2 things. Number one, there was one comment that it made it sound like I was dissing my own window treatment people, only because the comment started at a point in my live presentation where you didn't get the context. And so I was like, no, that's not the intent. If you have the whole conversation, it's not the intent, but you could sit there and go, really, Lou? 40 years in the industry, that's what you're going to say about us, right? And so that But the only other thought I had was, there is nothing missing from this. I can't imagine that there isn't 50 times of film on the cutting room floor, but I'm just like, yeah, make that 1 4 second edit and let's go. Like it was just how do you take a year's worth of film and decide what stays and what goes and nothing feels like it's missing? It's crazy. It's a crazy talent you have.
I'll give you the same answers as the Spotify CEO. How is because I just care more to go that deep into the story and know that that's my goal is to allow people to get to meet Luann and see Luann in a way that they've never saw you before. And
but yet, can I just cut you off there? Yeah. But yet it is the same Luann that shows up.
Right.
That's what's bonkers about it.
Yes.
You're just like, yep, that's what I do. That's how I talk. That's what I say.
It is. But it's because people don't, unless they come to one of your events, unless they're at High Point, unless they come to the Lunch and Learns at Window Works, they don't get to see all of it, right? They get to hear some of the stories. I mean, obviously after I think you're up to 1,500 episodes now between the two podcasts. After all of that, yes, you get to learn Luann, but to see you in your natural state, spending time with your grandkids, with Vinny, all the things. It's a 3-dimensional view into your world that people don't normally get.
And even the conversations with designers, that was also what surprised me. Those moments that you caught, I was like, oh, well, that's crazy. Like you forget you're being filmed. And it's funny. I think I've said this to you one time in whether we were together at an event with others or just us or whatever, but I don't know if it was Dr. Phil. Now, I'm talking about Dr. Phil before he became a sensationalist talk show host. But back in the day, in the 90s, he was a once a month, I think, or once a week recurring guest on Oprah. Yeah. And it was a very intelligent conversation. It was thoughtful. It was kind. It was helpful to the audience. It was helpful to the studio and the TV audience. And I think it was him that said this, and I could be attributing it wrong, but he was like, somebody was like, it might have been Oprah herself. It was like, what is the mechanism? Why do we couple up? Why do people couple up? No matter what that looks like for you in your life, but what is that thing that drives us to do that? And the comment it was like, we're wired to be a witness for somebody's life, and we're wired to want to have that witnessing of our life, right? Like when you do a good thing, you're not like, okay, newspaper, I just had the greatest coaching session with a COB today, and it was awesome, and she got her head turned on straight, and she's ready. No, nobody knows about these moments when you pick the perfect sofa, and the client is like, butter, that's the least of what you do is pick the perfect sofa, but you still do that, and that's a big deal, right? And so I have lived with that sentence in my head so often where even Vinny, I love him like life, but he also drives me to drink. Like we all know this, right? So there'll be times and I'll just be like, your job is to witness his life. You are the number one witness of his life. And the thing is, you love this job. You would not want to give this job to anybody. You would fight to the death to have this job. So just smile and acknowledge that's a cool thing you did, Nagara, right? But the docuseries is like that on steroids. It's like, for every designer ever to listen to the interviews that you do with their clients, with their trades, for Brad and his team and all the things. It's just like, it's kind of like when your kids do something really good at school and they're old enough to, not like a 5-year-old. I mean, a 5-year-old can do a good thing, but like when you're high schooler or your college kid, and you're like, oh, you were listening. Mm-hmm. You came out, you were good. I did a good job. It's like, it's all in there. And I think when you watch your own docuseries, you're like, oh, my clients do get me. They do appreciate it. It's a funny, and I do think that's that first bridge to stepping into the transformation of owning that I deliver this thing, whether it's a designer, a builder, an architect, or whatever. Yeah. It's it's powerful.
not that long ago, Brad's daughter, his first daughter, Brad has 6 kids, but his first daughter got married.
Hmm.
And she married a client's son at the client's home
That Brad built, right?
that Brad
That's
built.
bonkers.
And, you know, on the surface, that's just a wild story in itself, right? That's just like, who gets to do that? My team and I went to film that wedding, not to film the actual wedding, but to include
Right.
it in his docuseries part, episode 4 of his docuseries. But even that, you uncover so many unique things about Brad, about this client, because this was the third home that Brad had built for this client,
Oh,
actually.
wow.
First one was a spec home that they bought. Second one was a custom home that they built with Brad, and this was the final third. This is their forever home that they're
End
going to
all
live
be
in.
all.
End all be all. But Brad shared a story in that docuseries during our interview that I hadn't even put together. As much as I was deep into Brad's world, I hadn't even put together that this spec home that he actually sold to this client, his name is Brian. The client's name is Brian. The spec home that Brad sold to Brian was when Brad was ready to actually quit on construction. It was his last go around, and he was just like, I can't make money in this industry. Like, who makes money here? And Brian bought the home, and it was actually what saved Brad from wanting to give up. And
Wow.
here he is, I think at that point, 8 years later, his daughter's marrying the client's son. And he said something to the effect of like, you know, you never know with all the decisions that you make if you're making the right ones. And this business in general, whether you're a builder, whether you're an interior designer, being an entrepreneur is extremely hard, especially with all the decisions that have to be made in the design world. But he was like, you know, you don't know that it's ever going to work out. You don't know that, you know, your daughter's going to marry your client's son. But I think what I learned from that, and what I continue to see with all of my clients, is like, many people are living their legacy right now.
Hmm.
You don't live your legacy when you die and you think about what you leave behind.
Yeah.
It's happening now with every decision that you make and how you make it. Rachel Usher, which is a designer in England that also runs a design retreat that is a good friend of the show as well. It was the last thing I said to her before, when we finished filming her documentary. The last thing I said to her, I was like, it is fascinating that with everything that she's been through in her story, she is getting to watch her legacy, right? Because her team is now taking over the business.
Yeah.
She has
Yeah. She
sold
went
the
employee
business.
owned, right?
She went employee owned,
Yep.
right? And she also has this summit, the Business of Interiors Summit, where much larger firms than
yeah.
she runs are coming and working with her. And they're changing the way that an industry is operating in England. The interior design industry is operating in England. She's getting to see that now. Not something that she leaves behind 10 years from now, or, you know what, that person made a difference. No, it's happening now.
Yeah.
And I think one more person that happens with is you, Lou. You are doing that now with the 10 years that you have been doing a well-designed business, and all the lives that you have changed, including mine, which we have talked about off air before. You're living your legacy now.
Yeah.
Now, right? Not later. And that's what, for me, that is what I love about the docuseries work that I do, is that I am capturing legacies now as they happen. Because Brad's kids, who I think his youngest is probably 9 or 10, they won't really understand what Brad is doing.
No.
But it's captured. And 10 years later down the road, when they go back to watch it, it's like, man, my dad was doing all those things. I actually got his 10-year-old son. We did a one-on-one interview with his 10-year-old. I think he's 9 or 10, and he is Brad's only son. So Brad has 6 kids, but one boy. It's his only son.
Right.
And Brad is intentional about, he said it in the docuseries, he's intentional about not trying to force his kids to come into the company, or, you know, yes, it's a great company, but they don't have to want to take it on. But his son said on camera, and he may not even realize what he said yet, but he's like, no, I want to do what my dad does.
Aw.
He was like, I'm watching my dad and what he's doing and how he's putting these homes together. And it's like, it's really cool. And I want to do what he does.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
And it's things like that you get to watch back that you don't realize it's happening while you're doing, because there's so many fires you're trying to put out, and, you know, teams and vendors that you're trying to keep in control. And it's like, the business that you're running, the things that you're doing right now today matter. The decisions you're making today matter, and you're living your legacy right now.
Yeah. Well, it's so true. And I appreciate your saying all of that. And it's funny because I think because I'm much older than all of you guys, I am acutely aware that I'm living my legacy. It's not lost on me.
Yeah.
And everything I build, everything I do, it's like, okay, is this a legacy project or is this a thing for now? And there are decisions that I make around the different things I do based on that answer, because
Yeah.
not everything can be a legacy project, but some of them, quite frankly, are in my mind.
Right.
Now,
Right.
I got to build the thing to make it be a legacy, but it's intentional, right? And what's so funny is a lot of times when, whether it's somebody that's just capturing pictures when I'm at a live event and doing Instagram and I'm like, tag me, or it's like the docuseries that you have created in different things. A lot of times I will look at my grandchildren and I'll be like, yeah, you have no idea what I do. And it's not like, oh, I'm doing such an amazing thing. The designers listening, their children and grandchildren have no idea of what they do. It's like, mom or dad is a designer. Okay, big deal, right? I don't care if you are a pole climber for FiOS. Like, you are important in the
Right.
infrastructure of the community. And it's so rare for someone else to have that behind the scenes look at what you do. And the docuseries does provide that. And it's funny because, my one granddaughter, Bella, she will be 11 in a month or so, but we're talking in June and this past Christmas. It was funny because it was about 3 weeks before Christmas, and I'm at the house visiting, and I walk by her bedroom door, and she's got her goals listed and written on her bedroom door. And there's 12 goals there. And I mean, they're everything from like land my backhand this spring, to whatever. I mean, it's just so fun being 10, your brain is just like, whatever, right? And I'm standing there and I said, oh, wait a second, what's this list? I didn't see this list. And now my daughter Beth comes over, and me, Beth, and Bella are standing there, and we're reading the list. And one of them was write a book. Well, I see write a book, and I'm like, we're going to have another author in the family? Bella looks at me like, oh, who else is an author? I'm like, girl, I mean, it just smacks you in the face. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm like, all right, it's a good thing
Kids will
Jude
humble
made a
you for sure.
docuseries about me.
Kids will humble you for sure.
Right?
But but as funny as that is with kids, it happens with future clients too.
That's the thing. It's like,
it happens with future clients. They have no idea. These
docuseries, these films that you make of every designer, Stacy, Rona, Rick, I mean, just all the different names, and we'll link them. You'll give me the links. I'll put them all in the show notes, but yeah, it's just like one last story, and we're going to have to let everybody go here, right? We could do this all darn day. But when I started the podcast, Window Works at that point was 35 years in business. And what's 35 minus 7? I don't know, 28.
28
right.
Yeah.
28 in the same town, same zip code. And the first 7 were literally across the border in West Orange. It wasn't like, we came from another state, right? But we're 28 years in the same zip code, which is not a big town. We are 35 years in this pocket, this community. And I'm going to tell you what, at that point, you gotta, I mean, if I just kind of try and do quick math in my head, probably 2.5 approaching $3 million in advertising in 35 years, because from the very beginning, Vinny was like, we are pounding the advertising. So you take 25 years of at least $100,000 to $170,000 advertising budget and times that by 25 years, right? Maybe I did the math wrong. Maybe it's right. I don't know. But you're not talking about a company that's like, should we do some marketing? It's like, this was his thing. Drive leads, Lou, go close them. I'll drive the leads to the door, you close them, right? And I start this podcast, and I don't know, 6, 8 months, a year into the podcast, some designer comes strolling in to a Window Works Lunch and Learn, which I had been doing before the podcast, maybe 2 years before. Um, and we're chit chatting, and I'm like, "Oh, where are you from?" And she's like, "My business is here in Livingston." And I'm like, "What?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I've never heard of you. Tell me more about your business." And she's talking to me about her business. And I said, "So, have you heard of Window Works before?" She goes, "Never." I said, "Oh, okay. But how long have you been in Livingston?" 25 years. Here we
Wow.
are. We are on the main street with 14 awnings that say Window Works. We've got a fleet of 5 trucks that are wrapped and lettered, riding around, following people to the bank and following people to the grocery store. And she has been in the same town as us for 25 years and had never heard of Window Works until she found the podcast. So you
Yeah.
think people know your story? You think people know what you stand for? You think people get you? No. You think your grandchildren know you wrote 3 books? No. They don't know.
No, and it's so true. I think that we not only take for granted the things that makes us unique, we take for granted that, oh, I've shared that story before, I've told that before, that people know that we exist. They don't.
No.
They don't, because there's so many other things going on. But if you want to continue to grow and take your business to the next level, it requires you putting yourself out there and exposing yourself. And exposure doesn't have to be bad. It's a good thing.
Yeah.
It allows people to know that you're here, you exist, and
That's right.
the world needs what you have. Even if you think another designer can do the same thing, you do it in such a different way that it is important to have. And so, but yeah, thank you for having me back on. It's always fun to have these conversations and to go through just like what it's been like the last 3 years of all in on this design industry, all these different docuseries, how designers are using this to create a new level in their business. It's a new level of business development. It's not just marketing and sales, it's business development, and it is helping these designers grow.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I'm so grateful that our paths cross. I can't even fathom like not knowing you. Like, nope, that's it. Like, don't even want to contemplate it. So
Yes,
I appreciate you, Jude. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
All right. I love this conversation, and not just because it's with Jude. I love it because Jude basically, for better part of an hour, kept handing us the proof of what I've said on this podcast for 10 years, starting right with my intro. Your talent alone is not enough to ensure your success. Jude has sat across 100 homeowners, over 100 homeowners, after they had hired their interior designer. That's 100 conversations, 100 different projects, different budgets, different rooms. How many of them said that they hired their designer because of their portfolio? 0, goose egg, nada, nil, niche zil, right? Like it's just like, it's not even 1 out of 100. I want you to sit with that for a second. Because I'll bet you if I asked you why you got your last project, some part of your answer would say, well, they really love my portfolio. They knew that I could design the rooms and the home the way they wanted it. And what Jude is telling you here is after 100 real conversations with real clients, not one of them said that that's why they picked their designer. So were you surprised to hear it? I have to say I've been saying it for a billion years, but I was kind of surprised myself. It was 0 out of 100. Okay? Now, what matters to them? Matters if they believe you can run the project without losing their trust. It matters if they believe that you'll execute on time, on budget, without disappearing when things get hard. It matters whether or not they feel safe handing you tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of their own dollars. That's not a talent question, my friend. That is a business question that your potential client is asking themselves. Okay? Now, Jude gets to this with every homeowner by asking 2 questions. Why did you choose this designer? And what would life look like if you didn't work with them? And you heard the story about Lauren. You know, the one client chose Lauren because she was the only one who looked at the blueprints and noticed there was no powder room on the main floor. Not the builder, not the architect, Lauren. That's not, a pretty portfolio picture winning a project. That's a sharp business mind winning the project, right? Now, takeaway number 2. When Jude first decided to go all in on the design industry, he went to work pitching over 100 interior designers on doing a docuseries with him, 6 months of phone calls, but not one yes. And then he said he found himself walking the halls at Luann Live, seeing the faces of the same people who had just been telling him no. And he didn't want to speak that day, but he did. And then there was the one designer who needed to hear exactly what he had to offer. He said it changed how he understood his own work. He realized what he does isn't for everyone, it's for the one. So if you're out there and you're just banging your head against the wall and trying to be everything to everyone, and your marketing and your messaging isn't true to who you are and what you're doing, then you need to take a page from Jude's playbook and figure out who is the one you are for, right? Because you are building your business for the one who wants you. Now, most of us don't have a Jude Charles, filmmaker extraordinaire, walking around asking our clients why they hired us. This is a unique advantage of what you get when you do hire Jude, and I highly recommend you do. But you don't have to wait to do this. You can ask the questions yourself starting now. And I know it might feel uncomfortable. So I want you to go back to episode 36 with Susan Brunstrom. If you haven't heard it, it's one of the best in the entire archive. Susan explained how she takes every client to lunch or dinner at the end of the project. But here's the part that matters. It's not just a happy lunch where you're clinking glasses and congratulating yourselves on the beautiful home. At some point, she is willing to turn the conversation and actually ask what she came there to learn. She asks them what went well, what didn't go well, and if you could change something in my business, what would you change? Right? Now, in my experience, every single person who has ever done this practice has said the same thing afterwards. It was incredibly scary and intimidating to do this, but they also always say the buildup was actually the scariest part. The conversation is almost always kind and honest, and it leaves you with something to work with. And yes, you might hear something that you didn't want to hear, but isn't that the whole point? Now you can go make your business better. All right. Now, if you want to see the other side of that question, asking a question after you've lost a project, go back to episode 1123 with Allie Faulkner. Allie had the courage to ask a client why he didn't hire her, and the answer surprised her. She assumed that it had to do with price, but her assumption was that it was too high. And what he told her was her price was too low, that as a luxury buyer, he was concerned that the lower number made him start to think about all the things he wasn't going to get in the process because the price was lower. And that one conversation changed the entire trajectory of Allie's business. So here is your action item for this week. The one thing every story you heard today has in common: Jude's 2 questions, Susan's lunches, and Allie's hard phone call. 1, steal Susan's practice. Take your next client to lunch or dinner when the project wraps and ask the question: what went well, what didn't, and what would they change? 2, steal Allie's courage. The next time you lose a project, pick up the phone and ask them why, even though every part of you just wants to keep running for the hills onto the next win. 3, and this is the thing that ties it all together: put the mirror to your own business the way Jude does for his clients. Who are you? What is your story? What actually makes you different from the designer down the block? Write it down in specific personal terms, not vague, I don't know. I like dunes and beaches, right? The real thing. Jude put it very plain to us. The best business development is personal development. Now, if you've tried that third tactic before and you've come up empty, or if you're just not sure you can see yourself clearly enough to ask these hard questions about yourself and your business, this is exactly what Jude does. And you can hire him to do a docuseries, but you also can start by going to the Boardroom for Creatives. Jude is a board member. In the Boardroom for Creatives, you can book a 50-minute session with him. And here's the thing: you have the proof it works. Remember Jen Davidson and Lauren Valerio, the two designers we talked about today? They are the two people who have sat across from Jude and come out the other side with a story that changed how they show up for themselves and their clients. So if you have been struggling to put into words that you can put into your marketing what makes you different, I highly encourage you to go and check his profile on the Boardroom for Creatives. And that's boardroomforcreatives.com. The link is also in the show notes. All right, one thing before I let you go, and it has nothing to do with any of this. It's just the truth, and I want to share it with you. Jude said something in this conversation that stuck with me since we recorded. He said, we do business with people. And I have been able to live that out with him directly. Jude has become one of my dearest friends over these last several years. Some of that is, obviously in part to spending a year together making a docuseries. You don't go through that with someone and come out the other side just as colleagues, right? But it's more than that. We share a very deep respect for each other. And I think it comes down to how we show up for each other. We're honest with each other, even when it's not easy. Jude has a gift for showing people themselves in a way that you can't see on your own. And he's done that for me, and I appreciate that so deeply. And I hope I've been able to do that for him too as well. The other thing is we laugh at each other, okay? I should say we laugh with each other, but actually we do laugh at each other too, which is sort of amazing. And we always go out of our way to spend time together, whether it's here in the States or across the pond in London. 10 years into this podcast, this is one of the things that I am the most grateful and proudest of that has nothing to do with downloads or rankings. It's that this podcast has brought me some of the deepest, most meaningful friendships of my life. And Jude is one of them, and I don't take it for granted. Thank you, my friend. Now, if you have not watched my docuseries that Jude created, you've got to go watch it. It's linked in the show notes. If you want to see the docuseries from the other designers and architects and builders that Jude has worked with, we will put them in the show notes as well. He's worked with Brad Levitt and Rick Campos and Rachel Usher and so many others. And last but not least, do not forget, October 17th, 2026 at High Point, we are celebrating 10 years of the podcast. Jude will be there. I'll be there. And thanks to the generosity of our sponsors, Design Masters, My Doma Studio, Sunbrella, and Design Assist, the event is free for you. The RSVP is in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Jude. Decide to be excellent. Thank you for joining me today. This podcast is a production of Luann Nigara, Inc. If you want to know more about me, my books, or Luann University, go to luannnigara.com. And if you are interested in having WindowWorks help you with your next window treatment or awning project in the New York, New Jersey metro area, go to windowworksnj.com to learn more. Have an excellent day.